So it's what, 10:14, slightly earlier than expected. But anyways, waiting for more people to join. I wanted to address one thing in particular, specifically at the beginning of this show. I've posted about Russia launching what was supposed to be an ICBM, an intercontinental ballistic missiles, on Ukraine on Thursday morning. And basically, what I was saying is uh, Russia wanted to send a message and show the true capability of its army and of its weaponry. And I was thanking, the current president for putting us, every one of us, at risk. This triggered a deluge. No, you cannot say that in English. A flood, yes, a flood of comments. Um, Many comments trying to justify the Western position in terms of Putin is a dictator, which he is the aggressor, is the one who invaded Ukraine. I didn't discuss that. What I'm saying mostly in that kind of post is that we have to recognize the power of Russia. We have to let the population know that the current actions of the US and NATO globally puts all Europe and the US at risk. And basically, that's what I'm saying. I'm not trying to justify what Putin is doing in Ukraine. I'm just trying to understand why Russia is behaving like this. And you always have to take the view of your opponent to understand how he thinks, and basically revert roles if we were the ones who would be subject to what happens to Russia. So again, usual, imagine um, Russia or China putting military bases and missiles in either Mexico or Canada. Obviously it would not fly from a US perspective, and that would be totally justified. So, and that's why I believe bringing Ukraine in NATO with a border with Russia, which Russia always said that it was a red line not to cross, is a mistake, in my opinion, and put the whole world at risk. Um, but the US has a history of crossing red lines until you send a clear message. And basically that's what happened this week. Russia had to send a clear message to make their position respected, and that's what happened. The unfortunate part of this is that Ukraine is basically the pawn, the toy between two dogs fighting for the same toys. And when you have two dogs fighting the same toys, the toy end up being torn apart. And unfortunately, and very sadly, that's what happens to Ukraine, and most importantly to the Ukrainian population that suffers from the current situation. Let's not forget that there was a peace agreement that was prepared in April 2022 when Boris Johnson, flew rapidly to Ukraine saying, no, we have your back, you have to continue fighting, because basically you are using your men to fight for us. That's what actually happened. So I won't elaborate much about that, but some people have asked me, why do you let people, comment on your post like this? First, I'm a free speech absolutist. which means that I will never censor anyone. That's not my objective. We've suffered with the current administration in the U.S. of censorship of social media, with the tech industry. Fortunately, I believe Musk bought X, that re-established some balance in what could be said on social media. Uh, so I think that's, for me, very important. And the second point is that I believe when people speak openly, that reveals their true nature. That reveals who they really are. So I don't say that these people's commenting on my post. Sometimes, not directly about what I'm saying, but trying to develop their position and the narrative, and that's totally fine. uh, Most of them are nice, good people. Specifically, one I'm thinking about, one specifically that is in my industry. I'm not angry about this. I don't take this personally. I mean, this person uses this platform of my post to express his view, and that's totally fine. I've had some interaction with this guy in the past. He's a good guy. I believe he's a good person. Is only really committed to defend his point, and that's perfectly fine. The issue comes with other people that are coming very aggressive comments on the post, attacking me personally, and this is something that I cannot accept, even though I didn't even remove the comments. But what does it mean? It means that I can be subject to an attack of these guys, which often happens on social networks, social media. You have a group of people starting attacking you and starting blocking you. There's a constant string of blocking of your account, which may lead the platform, the social media, to actually censor you and block you and ban you. I realize that this is something that can happen on LinkedIn. So possibly I will start branching out from LinkedIn, which means still posting, but potentially my newsletter and this weekly live show will probably move somewhere else. I'll probably set up a location on my website to be able for you to access this information. And what will only appear on LinkedIn is that the regular post and potentially the notifications of these videos and newsletters that will appear on my website when I have no idea when at this time. But the counterpart, the thing is that I would probably have to ask for a registration to access the newsletter and the video and the live show, so that in the future, if I actually get banned from LinkedIn for whatever reason, then at this time I will be able to send you notifications about the live, the newsletter, and you will still be able to have access to the kind of content that I produce on a weekly, if not daily basis. So that parenthesis being closed, thank you for all your comments, by the way, on my post. Just reminds you that it's already happened, maybe 2 years ago, right after the start of the conflict in Ukraine, when the West started putting sanctions on Russia. And I had made a post where I was mentioning that sanctions actually never work, and they are often detrimental to the ones that are actually putting sanctions on, which is exactly what happened. If you look at the German industry today, cutting themselves from cheap energy. So GDP is energy transformed. You can see it like this, and the cheaper the energy, the higher the GDP that you can extract. The thing is that by cutting themselves from the Russian gas after Russian energy, specifically after the U.S. blew up Nord Stream 2 pipeline basically tanked their economy at this point. I think that Europe is in a really bad shape today. I never really believed in the Europe as a long-term construction. I believe it's possible that Europe will collapse with the euro as sooner or later. I think with the current situation, it gets more, the probability increase every year, every month, I would say. So we'll see. So I definitely close that parenthesis, but just look ahead for updates about me branching out and giving this the newsletter that I offer, and the video, the live show on Saturday mornings like this one, on my website. So we have a couple of guys here. Henrik Blatt, always there. Sorry, Henrik, I could not join this morning. I hadn't finished preparing what I'm doing today. So, but next time, I hope I'll be able to join your live. So let's start, because we are already 10 minutes in. I believe whatever I speak about, I just speak too much. This is the way it is. So let's start. Let's start with what? Maybe we can start with the. Well, maybe not yet. I mean, let's start first with the US. We discussed just one quick little thing. We discussed some appointments last week. Okay, I understand, Enric, and that's perfectly fine. I get it. I'm really sorry. Hello, Ben. For a month or two. Okay, I understand. I'm already too long. If you cannot stay with me, you'll always have the possibility of watching it later, or either on LinkedIn, same link, or on my YouTube channel. There's no link in my LinkedIn profile to my YouTube channel. I'll probably do it. But if you look for Quantaraction in YouTube, you'll find it. You can subscribe, and you'll have the video that you can watch later. So thank you, Ben, for reminding me this. Okay, a lot of guys this morning. Hello, Nicolas, Nicolas de Paris. Merci d'être là. Thank you all, guys. But let's start. I mean, okay. Sorry about that. Let's get some real information. So the US, I discussed last week the Trump making his appointment one by one. I was happy with most of them. I think that the biggest news this week about the current cabinet being formed by Trump is the potential Attorney General Matt Gaetz had to withdraw from contention. The official reason is not yet known, but I think that looks bad. That looks pretty amateurish, in my opinion, although we don't know exactly the reason. So maybe there was some games behind it. Maybe Matt Gaetz will be taking other forms of action in the current with the next administration, because Matt Gaetz says that he will not try to rejoin Congress. I would be very surprised if he would retire. So potentially he will get another position within the administration. That's my take about it, but I think that it was pretty important to notice. So now if we go about what happens in Eastern Europe, we've never been closer to World War III. Obviously, like I said in the message, in the post that I mentioned before, this was a clear warning from Russia to at least European countries and the US countries. Why? Because Uh, I mean, maybe I should go back to in chronologically. We had last week Biden authorizing the use of long range missiles to strike inside Russia. So the very next day or 2 days later, actually the Ukraine launched these missiles. That actually need the support of NATO operatives. This is not something that the Ukrainian army has been trained for, which means that they have to have NATO operatives to launch these missiles against Russia. And that's why Russia says that's changed the nature of the conflict, because it's not only Ukraine now, it's Ukraine and the countries that are supporting Ukraine to launch these missiles inside Russia. Um, so again, it's I mean the launch of missiles inside Russia was a clear escalation. What else can we say about that? Maybe we can talk about the retaliation. I mean, it was interesting because the missiles that Russia launched. So at first, it was considered an intercontinental ballistic missile, which an ICBM, and this was reported basically by the Ukrainian side. And that's why I wrote this basically in the post where I was corrected. No, it was not an ICBM, it was an intermediate range ballistic missile. Okay, that's fine, but that doesn't change the conclusion, that doesn't change the message, basically. So whether it was an ICBM or an IRBM, the message from Russia, that missile was fired blank, which means what I mean by that is that it was a missile that has the capability to hold nuclear heads. But this one obviously didn't have nuclear heads in it. And that's why you can consider this as a very strong message to NATO and to countries supporting Ukraine in this fight. This says, okay, you now have you're now striking into Russia. Be aware that we can also strike wherever we want. Actually, in Europe, with that version of the missile that's been used on Thursday morning, which is called the Oreshnik missile, I believe. Yes, that's correct, and which is a hypersonic missile, which means that it can reach locations very, very fast without any possibility to be intercepted. For instance, I mean, the missiles that hit Ukraine reach its target in 5 minutes. And knowing, I mean, basically the speed of this missile that is can go up to Mach 10. So Mach 10 is about 3 kilometers per second. 3 kilometers, probably 2 miles per second. I'm sorry, I still cannot get used to the imperial system of measurement. So, but I guess 3 kilometers per second is about 2 miles per second, or 7,600 miles per hour. That's pretty fast, and that makes this hypersonic missile virtually not interceptable. And why does it put other European country at risk? Maybe not the US, because it's possible it was an intermediate range missile and not an intercontinental missile. Again, sorry about that. Because it can reach Poland in 8 minutes. It can reach Germany in 11 minutes. It can reach Belgium or Paris in 14 minutes. And it can reach Great Britain, the UK, in 19 minutes. So for the most I would say aggressive, but I will, I will get comments on this, saying that NATO is aggressive, but UK is, is ready to fight. They have mentioned this multiple times. You have Strammer, Keith Strammer, this week saying that he was ready to use nuclear weapons. That now that gets interesting. You have some generals saying that they are ready to fight in Eastern Europe. So it's pretty aggressive rhetoric for someone that would not want to escalate this conflict. But the message is that, okay, you want to fight with us, be aware that we can level out London in about, like I said, 19 minutes. So I think the threat is very serious. It doesn't, it has not to be taken lightly. What's interesting is that, not long ago, and even last week, I was seeing in the news, in the Western news, some articles saying that Russia was about to collapse. They were fighting with Soviet-era tanks, Soviet-era weapons, and Lada cars, that kind of crazy stuff. What Russia is showing to the Western world, to us, is that they have weapons that they haven't used yet. What they did is basically the same thing as the US did. They know that Ukraine is a proxy war. It's not a direct war against the US. So the same way that the US and NATO is sending these old weapons to Ukraine to basically stay alive as long as possible, Russia is doing exactly the same thing. They use their old weaponry to basically restock with new weapons, and and basically Ukraine is a training ground for both the US and the Russian military. So the Oreshnik launch missile on Thursday was kind of live test that was successful according to Russians, and they have decided to accelerate the production of these missiles and deploy them basically everywhere. If you don't remember, we have a border with Russia in Alaska. This is very often forgotten. So basically, that's where we are at this point. You had some pretty strong rhetoric. You have also, like I said, I mean, the UK Army chief that we're ready to fight Putin in Europe. The Bundeswehr prepares for companies for war. Everyone seems to be, happily jumping into war. Just as a French guy, I'm also reminded of the First World War, where French army was so convinced that they would win this war easily that it was a matter of weeks, and that's what basically was printed in the press at the time. Similarly, same thing as we have today with Russia. I mean, the war, and they cannot win, we would crush them in an instant. I think that there's nothing more wrong than this, than underestimating your opponent. And so Russia has changed is nuclear doctrine, and they want to deploy more nuclear missiles, saying that, showing to their potential enemies that they can hit them anywhere. So again, they have unveiled their new missiles that nobody was aware of. So if they have intermediate range ballistic missiles, they probably also have intercontinental ballistic missiles, which would probably be able to hit the United States. And don't forget that when the conflict started, Russia has launched their nuclear submarine across the seas, which means that we probably have Russian submarines cruising along the both coasts of the US, and can probably launch some similar hypersonic missiles on the US if necessary. If you have, I won't talk about it maybe, but if you have the time, um, just check Dead Hand Russia. Dead Hand Russia is a system that Russia has put in place even before the Eastern Europe collapse, which is a system where if actually the central command does not respond, it would launch missiles across the world, and specifically to the United States. So these systems used to exist at the time. It still exists, obviously. It certainly has been improved with hypersonic missiles, which means that if we ever try to level up the Russian ground, we would be leveled down, level up, level down, as well. So I mean, this is my point basically is that this is not something we need to play with. We have Andre Lewis. I mean, this is someone that I really like the content on LinkedIn. If you're not following this guy, you should. He always has great information. It is smart. It is useful. So follow this guy if you have the opportunity. But so I didn't know that there are talks. Ukraine war negotiations have moved Mar-a-Lago. I hope so. I still believe that Putin waits for the new administration to come in, that they are showing restraints at this point, because what they did this week shows that if they had wanted to, they could add, carpet bombed Ukraine with very powerful missile, which they didn't, which also means they are showing restraints, and they are waiting for the new administration to come in in January. But again, what this shows is, and they would probably be very, I would say, worried, because I would say that it's for them, and understandably, it's difficult to trust the West. So we'll see. What else can I say about this? That the U.S. Department of Defense also adjusted its nuclear defense strategy. We are back in a race of nuclear weapons, more powerful every time. So we'll probably have some demonstration about hypersonic missiles at some point, which I don't know if they exist in the US. We have not. I don't think we've seen live tests of hypersonic missiles or missiles. I never know. In the US, it doesn't mean that these weapons don't exist. Very often, I mean, you hide your power. Very often, you don't want to show all your cards. This is what Putin did until now, until he started, showing his cards in Ukraine. It's very possible that, well, I mean, I'm sure that the US is doing the same thing, not showing all their cards about what they can do on a military basis. But since nobody knows, it's just a flip of a coin at this point. So when you have comments saying that, oh, we will crush Russia in one day, that's unlikely to happen, and we actually do not know. It's well possible, but we actually do not know. And always remember, in finance and in life, what hurts you is what you don't know that you don't know. So let's not forget that. What else can I say about this? I had some other stuff, but we already 20 minutes in, so I will move on. Yes, I had some other stuff, but I can leave that aside. Now, so just to finish on geopolitics, just a couple of words about Israel and China and Russia. So Israel had just announced the largest appropriation state land on the West Bank since the Oslo Accords. They are planning 6,000 new settlement housing units. So, every time we have a war between the Palestinians and the Israelis, I mean, obviously, it's just the Palestinians just cannot fight by themselves against the Israeli government, and it always ends up in Palestinian losing territory in this region. And basically, that's what happened again. You might have seen as well that a new international criminal court warrant arrest has been launched against Netanyahu. Obviously, I mean, the US will never arrest Netanyahu in any way. I mean, I firmly believe that the ICC is a joke. And why is it a joke? Because it's just a weapon on of the West, or again, maybe not this time because they launch a warrant against Netanyahu. But I mean, everybody knows that Netanyahu will never be arrested. So it's just basically useless at this point. It's always used in terms of communication when you have, enemies of the West. You can declare Putin as a war criminal. You can declare who was this Bashar al-Assad as a war criminal. All that kind of stuff. But when it's on the West side, we never declared Colin Powell as a war criminal. The showing the weapon of mass destruction was a total lie. We after seeing war crimes by the U.S. Army, no one in the U.S. Army was defined as a war criminal, but Assange was targeted really heavily. So I mean, just my point is that the ICC is a joke, and we should not keep more attention about this. Yes, I will. I will talk about Jim Cramer at the very end. Sorry if I take you too long, but it's mostly a joke. I mean, you should never take any advice from Jim Cramer or inverse Cramer, maybe, I don't know, but I kept the joke for the end of the show. Yeah, just I mean, we had the G20 in where was it, in Brazil this week? I believe it was in Brazil. Yes, because we've seen Biden, walking away in the jungle, not answering question. I mean, it was, in French, I would say lunar. But this guy, I mean, is ready to put all of us at risk. This is a guy that we've been said that cannot be prosecuted for what he has done because he's too old, but he's old enough to start a World War III. Okay, let's move on, because otherwise I will get again crazy comments. So yes, what can we say about the economy? So the Fed's priority was to avoid, inflation and high unemployment at the same time. Like we can see it, what happened in the 70s. Both inflation and the unemployment rate are rising, which means that we are kind of, in a similar, we are getting into a similar situation as the 70s. And the Americans are already broke. Which is a big issue, because consumption is really a big part of the GDP in the US. And I don't know if you've seen the Target results. Where is it? I think I have this somewhere. Yes, so Target dropped 20% after announcing their results. Why? Because I mean, their results are dropping massively, showing that people are not shopping anymore, and possibly, like I said, because people are broke. At this point, they have maxed out their credit card. The savings is at historical lows. So it really paints a really bad picture going forward about the economy. And if you want to emphasize on this, if you look at the spread between the 13-year yield and the Fed fund rates, we had the Fed taking Fed fund rates lower at a time where the Treasury interest rate yields are going higher, and so the spread is rising. And whenever we had this time, or at least the one that we could you can see on the chart, it happened in 2000, right at the peak of the internet bubble, and we have the same thing in 2007 before the great financial crisis. But we all know it's always different this time, right? So nobody should be worried. Uh, you know what I mean. So, and if you look at, because yes, maybe I should put my caption here, which is, whatever I say is not an investment advice, is for information only. Take this show as a sarcastic comic show, and you'll be fine. Okay, next, I mean, you have similar situation when you compare the S&P 500 earning yields and the 10-year treasury rate. I mean, you can see that the spread is going down, which means that stocks are less attractive compared to interest rates in an environment where rates are rising. So far, again, I mean, the U.S. markets, U.S. equity markets have, came back to around the whole-time highs. But what does it mean? It means that stocks are pretty expensive at this point. So which means that it's potentially another warning. We'll have to see, because it will, as always, it will depend on the actions of the Fed and who will be the next Fed chairman. You know that Powell mentioned that he would not leave even if asked by the new president to leave. So he would not leave, but there's a situation where the Fed chair can be fired for cause. And if you look basically at the balance sheet of the Fed, the losses of the Fed, there's a guy on Twitter that published this almost every day. It's kind of a running joke, and this is massive. So, and it happened under Powell at a really unprecedented levels, and so you should check this, because I believe that this could be a reason for him to be fired for cause at this point. But again, what this chart shows is basically that the situation gets risky at these levels, both in terms of spread of Fed funds with a 13 years yield, and if you look at the S&P 500 earning yield versus the 10 years treasury. So stocks potentially less attractive at this level of interest rates. So with Target, we already talked about this. So now we can move to markets. Well, this is the first time I managed to accelerate this fast on the show. It's interesting. Maybe I get used to it. No, one last thing that I didn't plan to talk about, but I thought it was interesting. It's basically shows the America's richest and poorest states compared to the G7 countries in terms of GDP per capita. And the richest state is actually in Washington, D.C., a state that it doesn't produce anything, which is interesting. And the poorest state in the US is Mississippi. And what's interesting, if you look at the GDP per capita of the Mississippi state, is still above the GDP per capita of the UK, of France, of Italy, and Japan. I think that is really a striking comparison. The only, European country which is above the poorest state in the US is Germany. Uh, but if you go back to what I said in the beginning, this may not stay for long at this time, and this basically is reflected in the European stock market and the European FX rate, the Euro FX rate with the dollar, that are both basically collapsing at this point. So in terms of market, we had a down week. I said that it was a welcome breather. The week before, we recovered. This week, about everything is green, about except maybe the short ETFs and the VIX. Obviously, we had a big in terms of futures, we had a big jump in natural gas. I know, Attilio, that you are looking at natural gas. To be honest, I don't look at it much often. This is not something that is included in my investment universe personally, so I don't check. Well, I could elaborate on why I'm not using natural gas in my, systematic quantitative systems, but I think this is a much better instrument to trade on a discretionary basis, like you do. Attilio, I'm speaking to Attilio now, who was, asking about nat gas. So what did we have? Just let me take a look if there's something interesting. Yeah, well, we'll talk about this, but gold recovering, that was interesting. So the stocks coming back slightly. On the negative side, we have the bonds basically flat for the week, not recovering at all. And is there something interesting? No, not really. I mean, euro is going down. The VIX was going down, and basically that's about it. If you are interested in something else, just let me know, and maybe I will add it in the next thing. So what happens here? We have the S&P going back near the all-time highs after the drop that we mentioned last week. So I won't go back in this. You have, maybe I can put that on bigger scale. Yes. And so we had the VIX collapsing. Specifically, so we had VIX rising a little bit, and now VIX collapsing. What's interesting is that the markets did not react to Russia, to the geopolitical side events, which I think interesting. So maybe the markets think that it's very unlikely to escalate from there, and then okay, everything is fine and will be good. I think that's a pretty interesting thing. Next, we have what? Yeah, I mean the bonds were basically flat on this week. No, nothing much to note. The situation didn't change. We're still in an environment where the rates are rising, basically mostly on inflation, and the US credit risk being much bigger than it used to be in the past. What else we have? We have gold that is recovering dramatically from last week, and And at the same time, what's interesting is that the US dollar is going up. Usually, US dollar and gold are moving, are not really correlated, are negatively correlated very often, but not this time. And for a couple of reasons. Um, so the interest rates are real interest rates. Fed treasuries are rising, which gives support also to the dollar. There's the expected policy of the new incoming administration that is will be supportive of the dollar as well. And why is gold rising at the same time? Is because uh, gold is rising at the same time because we have this very specific situation at this time about the US deficit and inflation uh, risk coming back. And so all of that are supportive of the of gold. And this is why we are in this very specific situation now where we have both the US dollar and gold rising at the same time. So that's I believe is quite interesting, and I would say not unique, but quite rare actually. So that's the euro versus the US dollar. We see that euro is collapsing. I've shown a chart a couple of weeks ago about the Euroization. We talk a lot about de-dollarization, but the share of the US dollar in international trade has risen. Why? Because the share of euro in international trade has dramatically dropped. It seems that people are now preferring going back to the dollar rather than using euros, which means that from market participants, there are some risk, perceived risk about the euros as a long term viable currency. I think that personally the Europe and euro could work well as long as you had Germany basically paying the bills. Now that Germany is in trouble, like I said before, with lower access to energy, cheap energy. This might be a condition for Europe to dismantle and euro to collapse, because you will have to have rich countries paying for poor countries. There was a point that France was considered a leader in Europe. It's not anymore, in my opinion, considering the huge deficits that France has. And the only reason that France can still afford to live like this with such deficit is because of the euros that is, kind of paid by Germany. If you want, this is the reason why France is benefiting from low interest rates because of Germany. So now, if Germany collapses, everything collapses. Okay, so that's my part about the euro. This is oil. Oil is, it's not going anywhere. The reason that I wanted to mention this today is because I've seen a news in the hedge fund world that Pierre Andurand, the oil specialist. So this guy is a huge, very famous trader on oil. He's been doing a lot of money for a lot of people for many years. And I know a couple of investors in this room who have invested with this guy. And so the reason I mentioned this is because Pierre Andurand mentioned, after drifting away from trading oil because he was not seeing many opportunities, he moved to other commodities. This week or last week, he mentioned that he was coming back to trading oil again because he believes that the situation in the Middle East will provide some opportunities. Potentially, I guess, my guess, on the upside for oil, which I find interesting because whatever happened recently in the Middle East didn't really trigger a massive rush on oil. I see a lot of downward pressure on oil. We have oil fields being found, by the week, if not by the day. US has become again one of the biggest oil producer in the world. So there's no shortage of oil at this point. So I'm not sure, and there are already sanctions on Iran to export its oil. So just let's imagine that the conflict escalates in the Middle East, and Iran is carpet bombed, because that would likely be the outcome. So no exports of oil from Iran. I don't think that would materially change the game for oil, because everyone is producing it, and again, there's no shortage of oil. So that's interesting. No, but again, who am I to discuss Pierre Andurand's position on oil? Maybe he's totally right. He has access to much more information than I do. Maybe he knows something that I don't, which led him to go back to the oil markets, and that we will see this in the future. Okay, so next, what do we have next? We have Bitcoin. So I checked this morning. We hadn't crossed $100,000, which I'm waiting to open a bottle of champagne. I mean that's pretty cool, and the reason why I take these rockets, and there was a quote, well, a mention by Andre Louis Yakubovitz this week about, I was complaining that I was not really late at this game of cryptocurrency. I felt late at this game, even though the biggest phase of adoption will only probably start now above 100K, because we already have many corporations getting into it, financial corporations getting into it. We just need to have it to be accepted by the rest of the world, and people not being scared by investing in Bitcoin. And from there, this is the largest part of adoption, which will trigger something potentially massive. Potentially not investment advice, remember. But what I wanted to go back to Andre Louis Yakubovich's comment was saying that at $100,000, the risk of investing in Bitcoin is probably lower than it was at $10,000. So he was saying this when I was complaining that I was kind of late to the game, even though I was there around the 20,000, which was still early already. But is totally right, because when it first reached $10,000, Bitcoin was not where it is now. There was no BlackRock behind, no ETF, no nothing, because it was basically a couple of guys behind their computers that were told that this thing was worthless, it would never go anywhere, but they still believe in the freedom dream that Bitcoin represents. And I would say that today they are rewarded to believe in this, I would say, freedom libertarian dream that Bitcoin is when Bitcoin reach is $100,000. If it ever reached this, because it has not yet. Let me check, guys. Let me check live. Let me check. Let me check my account. That would be cool if I could announce that it's 100,000 on a live basis. No, we are at 98,581.7 right now. So, I mean, it makes sense that 100,000 is, kind of psychological barrier for Bitcoin. But I've shown you a chart. I don't think I have it here today, about the current supply. So that's the chart, the Bitcoin chart. It's going up since we broke out of this what you call pennant, maybe in technical analysis. So we broke out, and why was I saying this? Yes, the chart that I posted this week on LinkedIn, showing the prices versus the amount of Bitcoin on exchange that is rising, which means that there will probably be a kind of fashion trend effect once we reach the 100,000, because it will go mainstream. If not already, we'll have more people getting interested in Bitcoin, more people interested in investing there, and so there will kind of be a supply shock at this time, which is kind of already starting, because I also commented this week on LinkedIn on a post of a guy that was, maybe it was Andrew Lewis, I don't remember exactly, but there was a post of a guy showing that RIA clients are complaining to their RIAs, to their investment advisors, about not having Bitcoin in their portfolio. Yes, I totally agree with them. Even, the volatility argument is not one. I've said it many times. If it's too volatile, just buy less, buy fewer of it. It's that simple. But you cannot use that argument. And Bitcoin, since it's been live, has been a great diversifier to anything you can have in your portfolio. So there's no logical reason not to have at least a tiny part of Bitcoin in your portfolio. And RIA clients are naturally angry about that, just because I believe that most of RIAs, specifically small RIAs, were concerned that it would give that basically Bitcoin would collapse and they would lose their clients. So as most investment advisor, if they buy the S&P 500 ETF and get their fees, that probably would not trigger any clients to go away, despite lackluster performance. But if you invest in something and this thing is blowing up, obviously the risk is you see your clients leaving. Now, what they might see is that seeing Bitcoin going up, clients being dissuaded from investing in Bitcoin even at a tiny fraction of their portfolio. And realistically, what a client can say is that, okay, what are you used for as an investment advisor? If you cannot see it, or if you cannot, at least put a tiny part of my allocation in Bitcoin, only for diversification, not even for the performance potential. But that's how it is. We are 58 minutes in, so I will conclude rapidly, if you don't mind. I don't know if I had some comments, but I don't see comments anymore. So this is the joke. Kramer said, buy Bitcoin. But if you consider that the track record of Jim Cramer's recommendation, I'm heavily concerned now. No, I'm not. But basically, that's the joke. You realize that this guy was at some point a hedge fund manager, but now he's a clown on TV. So maybe that was a better position for him. I don't know. But I mean, this guy is insane. Okay, we exactly an hour, 59 minutes, and 10 seconds in. So I thank you for being here. Inverse grammar is the way to go. Depending on what you're talking about, I would say, but this statement is very often largely correct. That's why I say, okay, oh no, my God, Jim Cramer is long Bitcoin, but we'll see. Okay, still here and listening. Oh, thank you guys. I guess sometimes, I wonder if people are are just sleeping behind their screen. Thank you, merci Nicolas, and we're good for this week. Yes, I managed to stay until 1 hour live, which is easy for me because I speak too much. So I won't keep you more than this. I wish you a great weekend. I know it was snowing in Paris a few days ago, yesterday maybe. So that's that's interesting. Thank you, guys. Enjoy your weekend. I hope you have great plans, and let's not forget about our friend Jim Cramer. And see you next week. You'll have the newsletter, which a little bit more structured information on Monday. If you haven't subscribed, you can still subscribe it on LinkedIn. Again, like I said at the beginning of the show, I will prepare my website to be able to branch out from LinkedIn to avoid any kind of censorship or banning from LinkedIn. At least this will be something that I can control. So I will prepare this. I will prepare a registration page so that you can register, and if I'm ever banned from LinkedIn, I will still be able to send you some notifications about both the newsletter and the Saturday Live. Thank you very much, guys. Again, enjoy your weekend. Take care of your family, friends,